I've watched anime for over 10,000 hours, and I think it shaped me up to be wired for self improvement and self evolution. So, in this video, I'm going to go over four animes with their main characters and the lessons that these animes actually teach, and at least how I interpreted them and what I took from them and how I applied it in my real life. When I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of anime, an insane amount. I think I was lonely or, I didn't have like a really strong friend group. And so I'd fill in those gaps with just watching anime. I think for a lot of people, it was mostly video games. And I definitely played a lot of video games, but I've definitely, that's actually a good question. I'm trying to think like, I think I've watched more anime than I've played video games growing up, which is crazy, right? Because it's a solo activity. But yeah, I used to just binge watch shows from when I woke up till I slept. I remember, do you know the show One Piece? I'm sure you do if you clicked on this video. One Piece is one of the longest animes. It has like 1,100 episodes. It's about pirates and this main character Luffy becoming the Pirate King. I remember when I was a kid, I used to literally wait till the end of the year. So when the summer started and I was done with like elementary school or middle school, and I would restart at episode 1 of One Piece and catch up to the current episode through the summer. And the way I would do this would be by literally as soon as I wake up, I just grab my phone and I start watching. And I'm watching it throughout breakfast, throughout lunch, throughout dinner. My family didn't have as much of like the eat together at the table culture. Like usually all of us would just go on our own devices and just watch our own shows while we eat. And so I would just be watching the anime throughout the entire day, and I would never put it down till I fell asleep watching it with my head on a pillow. So I was like clocking in low-key like 16 hours a day watching anime, and I would do it for most of the summers, and I would do this every summer. Crazy maniac activity. Not even just for the fact that I was watching anime, but just like literally because I was rewatching One Piece. Like how was I watching that same episode sequence, the same plots and everything over and over again. I think a year was enough time for me to like reset my memory and like be able to enjoy it again as I'm watching it. But yeah, no, it was absolutely insane. But there's been some really good lessons, I think, that I'm starting to reflect now retrospectively that like I watched so much of this anime, I feel like it got burnt into me some of these lessons. And so I just want to go over a couple of these shows. The first one is Dragon Ball Z. I don't know if a lot of you have watched this. If you've watched Dragon Ball Z growing up and you've never seen the abridged version, first of all, like I would watch that at some point in your life. It's a masterpiece of a show. But Goku in Dragon Ball Z, the main character Goku, every single time that he got stronger, it was only in the face of an enemy who was stronger than himself. And this happened throughout the entire show, is that he always needed to face something greater than himself, and then he would be able to surpass that limit. It was never that, like he was just training and he was working and then he just randomly surpassed his limits. He was always in an uncomfortable situation, and then once he was in that situation, he rose above it. And so this really teaches the lesson of how everything works, how growth works, how self-evolution works, is that it's not an easy process. It's not a comfortable process. Like it could be in a way if you're in flow state a lot of the time, you're enjoying the work, but like you're not really enjoying it as like a pleasure similar to a drug or like watching social media where it's like mindless. It's like a different type of pleasure, more similar to when you're in the gym and you're like pushing a really heavy weight and you like feel the burn in your muscle as you're doing it. It's like it's that pleasure you get from pain of like facing a challenge, So like maybe it could be enjoyable. But my point is that growth only comes when you throw yourself at the uncomfortable situation. And it's been so interesting now, like this year, I got my first agency clients. I'm in this entirely new role at a company. And so much of it was unknown to me until I sent myself. I was just like, okay, I'm going to sell the client first. I'm going to get my offer across. And then I'm going to learn service delivery if you're an SMMA at all. That's how you do it. Like you can never just learn everything before you get put in that uncomfortable situation. You don't even know what you need to learn in that uncomfortable situation, or you don't even have an idea the things you need to learn in a skill set until you are put in the situation where that skill set needs to be used, if that makes any sense. So that's what I got from Dragon Ball Z. Naruto is another huge one, and I think the biggest thing I got from Naruto is how everyone didn't believe in him. He was the outcast, and he still persevered through that using his own personal efforts. Of course, later in the show, he had support from his friends, but wow, like at the very start, he had a dream, and we'll get to a vision and dream later, but at the start, he had a dream, he had a goal, and no one was supporting him. No one was friends with him. And I think this really teaches a lesson, especially in today's society when everyone seems to be going in the same direction. Everyone around you is going through this path of just like, okay, I'm going to listen to my parents. I'm going to do exactly what they're saying. I'll go to college. I'll get this job. I'll go in this direction. But they're not ever stopping and really thinking what they really want for their long term. I think being the exception can make you exceptional. You hear that quote sometimes these days, right? But like, what does that really look like? What that actually looks like is that you're sitting there and everyone around you thinks you're different, or at least you feel like you're different compared to everyone around you, and to you, that would be thinking that everyone's judging you. And like maybe you are, like right now I'm on a carnivore diet. I only eat meat and eggs. And I know it's going to be like almost impossible for me to meet anyone else in person around me who's going to be doing this. But I know that this diet's going to lead me to have more mental clarity. Like even right now, it's later in the evening. I'm able to work right now. I'm able to be at my most peak intelligence recording this video. And it's like, that's an exceptional level of mental clarity and focus that I can't have on a regular diet that 99% of people do. It's things like this, it's like you need to be the exception to be exceptional. And that's what Naruto is doing, No one was supporting him and he still went in that direction. Luffy, One Piece. We already talked about this a bit, but the one thing I wanted to touch on about him was his vision. Always being the pirate king, like that's his goal. And he said that since the start. At the first day, like the first episode of the anime, I think that's one of the first lines. He's like, my name's Luffy, I'm going to be the pirate king. 1,100 episodes go by, he still has that same dream, but now progress has been made. And so for me, what I've been taking from this, especially recently, is that I just moved across the country. I'm starting a new role and I'm doing the marketing at an AI company. And I still have a vision in my head about my future, about making these videos, about helping people, about spreading a good message. And I'm going to keep that vision in my head for the rest of my life of just this future that I want to create, this business, this ecosystem, this system of helping people, even if I'm spending more of my time learning these different types of skills, working for this company, building up this different entity, this AI company. It's so important to have a vision, and that's just one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is that without a vision, without clarity of where you're going, you can't tap into your brain's creativity. Our brain has this ability to just feed us solutions. If you think of something, like if you're thinking, okay, what should I eat today? Your brain will start popping up with like, oh, like in the fridge you have this, you could make this meal. Oh, you could go outside, you could eat this. Oh, you could invite this friend and go do this, But only if you state the problem at hand, right? If you don't know what the problem is, you won't get the solution, you won't take the action. But how do you know what the problems are that you need to solve? You need to have a concrete vision of where you're trying to go. You need to have the vision. Once you have the vision, once you know exactly where you want to be making this much money, you want to be surrounded by this amount of people, then the actions start popping up into your head. And then maybe it's a whole different game of like getting into a good work ethic and being able to focus, all this stuff. But once you're able to get concrete on your vision, at least you'll have the actions. You won't be lacking clarity. So that's what I got from Luffy. That's what I got from One Piece. And the final one is Tokyo Ghoul. This is not as popular as the other three. And so I'm going to be a little bit vague on how I'm describing this because it's kind of a spoiler. It is a spoiler if I was really specific about it. But the main character, later in the first season, I think between the two seasons, he has this huge character development. And if you've watched the show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And in this character development, it's not like normal animes where like a main character goes through some obstacles, goes through some challenges, and they grow, get stronger. This was different. This felt different. And if you know, you know. What was different about this main character's development in this anime was that he accepted his flaws, his dark side. He accepted the part of him that he didn't want to accept. And when I reflected on this anime and like that lesson of like him just accepting this is how it is, I'm gonna do this, even if it's dark, even if it's bad, even if it's just like my ugly side, it is still me. That's what I felt from it. And it's like we all have this shadow. We all have this part of us, these groups of trauma, this insecurity, these parts of ourselves that we don't like to think about or talk about, that we just kind of keep hidden. And wow, like I forget who said this. Was it Freud or one of these guys who said, if you don't make you need to make the unconscious conscious if you want to let go of it. Something like that. Or else basically the concept is that it resides in your unconscious until you make it conscious. And what that means is that you could be having or dealing with all these traumas and insecurities that are just going on in your programming and your subconscious in the background. But if you don't accept them and you just let them kind of run in the background, you're going to keep running into problems. You're going to keep getting anxiety. You're going to keep going back, regressing to older versions of yourself. You need to integrate your shadow. And I've only been, I'm kind of a noob in that area as well. I've done some shadow work, but I've never had like a shadow coach or gone in that deep. But even in the little amount of work that I've done through journaling and just thinking about my darker side, my shadow, and trying to integrate it and accept it, I've made a lot of progress, and I feel a lot more happy and fulfilled in my real life about, all facets of me. I'm not just accepting the discipline part of myself, but I'm also accepting the part of me who can be degenerate, who can binge watch anime like I have talked about in this video earlier. Because a previous version of myself a year or two ago would just be roasting, would be demolishing this part of me. He's like, oh, he watches anime? Like, wow, what a degenerate. But it's like, that's still me, Like, how can I judge that person if it's still me, Maybe there was different circumstances, but it's just a judgment to say, like, anime is bad. To integrate my shadow, it's like, why do I have this judgment towards this younger version of myself? Let me instead accept that part of me. That is who I am. Like, maybe it's not how I want to carry myself now, but that doesn't mean that I should point to that as this evil thing that's in the past. And I feel like for a lot of people who go through self-growth and really change who they are fundamentally, they start to judge their younger selves. And I think that can lead you down to a really dangerous path. I've gone down this. I lost 65 pounds back in 2020, and it almost sometimes when I describe it to people, I started to catch myself how much I was almost referring to my younger self as a separate entity that wasn't even me, this different person that I operated as. But all of those actions of just putting this younger version of yourself in this corner and judging it, it's just it's not ideal. It's not great for actually achieving complete peace and tranquility. In order to achieve actual peace and tranquility and to be able to just move towards our goals, which I found for myself happens a lot easier when you're at this peaceful stage, when you've worked on your traumas and you're integrated everything. In order to do that, you can't be judging your younger self like that. But those were the lessons I got from these animes. If you have any other animes you've watched and you had lessons you got from them, please leave them down in the comments below. I would love to read some of those. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to continue on this journey of watching these types of videos, go down and hit the subscribe button, the like button, check out the channel, or just watch this next video. Peace.